Hello, commentary here. Today I want to talk to you about the management culture. I wrote a book about it called The End of the Management Culture because I really do believe it's not only ending, but it really has ended. So, what do I mean by that? Well, let's start at the beginning. I view life in the West as three separate eras. The first era is what I call pre-modernism. The mantra for this era was, I believe, therefore I understand. In other words, one person's understanding was based entirely upon what they believed. And the church, the Catholic Church, dominated the culture completely during the pre-modern era. Then something happened in the 15th century. Removable type was created, and that meant the development of the printing press. And with the printing press came all kinds of crazy things. John Wycliffe, who was a Bible translator, he wrote after completing his translation of the Bible that this book shall make possible government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So it was really, the printing press was really quite revolutionary, and the church went nuts. First, they wanted to provide licenses for those who printed the Bible, and that didn't work. And then, fellows like John Wycliffe, who wrote the first Common English translation of the Bible, he said, this book shall make possible government of the people, by the people, and for the people. How so? Well, if knowledge, which was basically the Bible at the time, was to be spread out across all of the laity, then the jewel of the elites, aka the Bible, the jewel of the elites is in the hands of the laity. And this created an enormous top-down era. By that I mean that the leaders, the elites, governed the everyday people by top-down fiat. In other words, the mantra for the modern era, which I call that, is I think and reason, therefore I understand. But modernism has its limitations. Manipulation was rampant during the modern era because the people who were at the top could easily use the press, let's say, to spread their propaganda. And, we still see today the vestiges of the modern era, one of which is what I call the management culture. Because top down really means management. So we are flooded with a management culture in the modern era. Every institution of the West is governed by top-down manipulation. And, this has created all kinds of problems. The problems that we see today, in a gigantic class warfare. So along comes the internet. The internet is known as the second Gutenberg moment. In other words, the internet changed the culture just as much as the printing press did in the 15th century. So today the mantra is, I participate, therefore I understand. The internet allows us to participate in darn near everything. Most importantly is that in the past, the only way to communicate was if you had a newspaper, a broadcast license, or some such media enterprise that allowed you to speak from the top to the bottom. That is management. Even the church, for example, operates under, as a part of, the management culture. Management and management theory dominates the Western world today. And that is giving way to what I call the postmodern era. I participate, therefore I understand. And what that has done is create a sideways communications medium. Sideways. Jay Rosen called it the great horizontal, because we are all actually, for the first time, equal. You know, a website, for example, is just a URL, just like any other media company. So we are now the media. We have become the media. And this is going to lead, I believe, to a vast disruption in Western civilization. Because if we can really communicate sideways, then Wycliffe's rule of government of the people, by the people, and for the people is finally possible. And you can see signs of it every day. The management culture is collapsing. It has to, because there's nothing to sustain it. Oh, we have people trying, especially the lawyers of the world want to maintain the status quo, which is modernism. But modernism, trust me, will have to let go. And when that happens, we are going to be faced with an entirely new world, an entirely new civilization, one that's based upon horizontal agreement and not top-down mandates. So if you can get your arms around this, you can understand a lot more about what's going on in our culture. The old school, the old way of doing things is trying desperately to hang on. And what we're facing really is not an evolution, but a revolution. And that is not going to be taken well by the status quo, which means some sort of conflict. And I don't fear that conflict because I have great trust in young people today, for example, to figure it out. And I think it's best if we all could just embrace the concepts of I believe, therefore I understand, I think and reason, therefore I understand, and I participate, therefore I understand. You know, the modern era didn't fully replace the pre-modern era. Churches still thrived. The church thrived. In the postmodern era, however, I believe we're looking at something completely different. And my advice to you is to get ready for it. Of course, I could be wrong because I'm just a commentary.